Well, good to have you. Good to see you again, man. It's
Hey,
been
man.
since Powell here last year. Was the last time I seen you, right?
Yeah, something like that. That's right.
Yeah, it's been a while. If you wanna maybe just give a brief rundown, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Walkingbear from Thunderchild First Nation, Treaty 6 territory. Yeah, man. Happy to be here, brother.
Yeah, and you've been kind of up to a lot, hey? Like speaking.
Yeah, I've been doing some speaking. I guess kind of went down the role of independent contract work. I kind of clinched a contract work with two companies. One's Tribal Chiefs Training Employment Services out in Edmonton, and another one is called IndigiConnect. And yeah, I kind of do a cultural or way of life workshop with tribal chiefs, and then I kind of host skills development workshops for IndigiConnect. So IndigiConnect is like 7 First Nations, and my role is to work with the director of operations of IndigiConnect. IndigiConnect is an Indigenous, I guess, business connections platform, and they kind of connect, I guess, Indigenous businesses with non-Indigenous businesses to create partnerships and create employment and training opportunities for the members of the nations. So yeah, it's a little bit of a handful, but it keeps me busy. I enjoy my work.
So that's with Thunderchild?
No, it's not with Thunderchild. I'm from Thunderchild. However, I do independent contract work with other First Nations.
Okay. I see. So with that, I'm trying to. So you just go to other businesses and like maybe build connections and network a bit and like build relationships with other companies.
Yeah, it's I guess I built a relationship with these two companies, and they kind of hired me as a skills development specialist for one of them, and then I'm kind of just like an independent contractor, so I do facilitations for workshops.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And one of the workshops are specifically just about Indigenous culture, and it's kind of just talks about Indigenous worldview, Indigenous philosophies, Indigenous values, Indigenous beliefs, and kind of just one of the things I see is that there's a need for Indigenous businesses to understand how First Nations peoples do businesses. And one of the things I've seen that was missing is that us Indigenous peoples, we kind of do in the business sector, and we kind of follow the you know I guess primarily the Western protocols and the due diligence in the Western field. And my dad kind of taught me as that us Indigenous peoples, we have Indigenous protocols and due diligences as well in the business projects that we do that we have to do. So I guess, explaining to the non-Indigenous peoples that, yes, us Indigenous peoples in business, we have protocols and due diligence as well. So that's kind of one of the things that, I see that's a need in the marketplace right now, because there's a lot of partnerships that are happening with Indigenous businesses, Indigenous First Nations. And, there's kind of I feel like non-Indigenous peoples don't really know how to go about to building those relationships or understanding how to build those relationships. There's a lack of trust from the past. And,
Right.
I just kind of being, in leadership, I kind of have that, I guess, that experience of seeing firsthand, the need for non-Indigenous and Indigenous peoples to remind ourselves not to forget about how we do Indigenous business protocols and due diligence with, just like basically when I say Indigenous protocols, it's making sure that we get our elders together where they're involved in the process of understanding the project, and making sure that we offer tobacco to the elders, so the elders can lift the pipes, say the prayers, and make sure that the project is done right, and it's done with good intentions from both sides. So it's it's a learning process for me as well. I don't know everything, but when I see something, I kind of do my best to speak out and try to elaborate on how can we find a solution.
Yeah. I I just had Fallon Baptiste on.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know her?
I don't think so. I
No.
might have heard the name.
But she was like her. It was cool because when she was talking about the Western culture and traditional Indigenous culture.
Right.
coming together. And one thing that she said that has really helped her like form that is finding the things that we have in common and going from there. Whereas she notices a lot of people focus on what our differences, and then people start from there,
Right.
and then it becomes an argument or a fight or a clash, or and she comes in from that view of like, let's see what we have in common,
Right.
and then like let's try and expand from there,
Right.
which I thought was like maybe like a more positive way to do things.
Absolutely. I mean, like, even just saying that, when you look at, commonalities when it comes to protocols and due diligence in business projects, making sure that it's done on both sides, that's a common ground. I believe that, it's relatable to what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, man, being realistically, there's a lot of mistrust that happened in the past, from,
Right.
just, I guess, uh, just the history. You look at history itself, there's been a lot of mistrust when it comes to, some of the legalities of, the policies and trusts that were drafted up, the negotiations of treaties,
Yeah.
just a lot of mistrust. There's been a lot of, I guess, uh, things that happened in the past where it's us indigenous peoples were kind of very, very protective now. And it kind of seems like, yeah, we can be protective to a certain extent, but also we got to find ways and solutions to open up and kind of find solutions and outside people to help and experts in their profession. To surround yourself with experts, I find is the best way to
Mm-hmm.
move forward in leadership, in business, and in teams.
Yeah.
I think that's what I believe.
And honestly, coming from your background with like high level sports,
Hmm.
like that's what that is, right? You surround yourself with people that are at that level, at your level or better, and then you
Right.
can build a team or a community that you know that you want to create, right?
Right. Absolutely. Like, one of the things, I learned from sports and we both can relate to is that, um, playing sports, there's comes a point in time where, on team sports for sure, I can only speak on behalf of, because I played men's volleyball. I learned how to be the best version of myself. And,
Mm-hmm.
my coach kind of came up to me one time and he said, Sav, you're the best version of yourself, but learn how to bring the best out of your teammates now. So we went together and, and I kind of taught me how to level up my leadership. You know what I mean? To not only, I guess, I guess at first I had to learn how to lead myself first in order to lead others. And I
Mm,
think that's one of the things that he's seen in me is that, once I was already leading myself, um, playing volleyball was kind of my vehicle to success, to be honest. I didn't really think I was, capable of achieving, 6 years in post secondary education.
right.
Growing up on the First Nation, we just used to just tease each other, that you can't do it, and you know what I mean. Like it's like some some minor lateral violence, just teasing from the boys and whatnot. But it always kind of I guess what really helped me to be successful in school is that like, it was a passion for sports. Just realizing that I have to pass my grades in order to play sports. And, I've seen a lot of great athletes, make it to post-secondary education, but, just fail out. And
Mhm.
it's a reality. And I think that one of the things that I wanted is just to just prove to myself that, I'm capable of being a great athlete, yes, but also, learning how to be a great student as well. And learning how to balance my academics and my athletics was a challenge at first because I just about failed out my first semester of college and I just barely passed my first semester and my coach came up to me and said, Sav, if you don't pass your grades, he said, you're not playing volleyball second semester. And it just kind of hit me hard. And I was like, man, I gotta find a way to like. He said, how do you be so good in volleyball? And like, how come your performance is outstanding on the court? And like, what do you do to get those results? And I said, well, hit the gym, train, eat healthy, do all these things. And he said, well, transition that into your athletics. And when you hit the gym, say you're hitting the library and like learning how to balance my time by going to the studying in the library, having those sessions, And like, I guess just finding a way to pass my grades and to find something I'm passionate in school. I found that, once I found something I was passionate in school, and then I was able to give it more meaning, I was able to give it more attention, more of a learning, open mind, open heart, open spirit, and just embracing in that. What is it teaching me? What's the lesson it's providing me? What am I taking away from this? And I really like psychology, uh, sociology. I really liked, uh, I studied Indigenous family support.
Mhm.
That was a great course. It taught me a lot about myself as an Indigenous First Nations male. A lot of healing. I found that, in my schooling, I found that uh, sharing is healing for Indigenous peoples. And, I can say this because it helped me personally, but also I see that, there's a lot of intergenerational trauma us Indigenous peoples face. And I talk about this because I'm an intergenerational effect of residential school survivors. My father was in residential school for 13 years and my mother was in for 3 years. And, the effects that it had on them, you know, impacted us, growing up in different ways. But, I had to learn that they absolutely did their best. And you know what I mean? Like, absolutely, they did their best. And I'm so proud of them, so thankful for how great of parents they become. But also, I never really knew what happened to them. I never really knew. They never shared. And you know what I mean? So there's a lot of, I find that, inside of sharing, there's power in sharing and sharing your feelings, sharing your emotions. And it takes a lot learning how to articulate what we feel and what emotions we're feeling and how to share those with communication, not only with yourselves, but also with ourselves. Not only, I guess, not only with others, but with ourselves, I meant. So there's two types of communication. There's communicating like we're doing with me and you right now, other people, and there's that communication within ourselves, that little voice in our heads. And, there's studies that say, the most important communication in this world is learning how to communicate with that little voice in your head. That's the most powerful communication that we have. Um, so, you know what I mean? That's what I'm learning how to do, is to learn how to communicate with myself better. Growing up, it was hard to understand the meaning of life, hard to understand what's my purpose, and being First Nations, facing a lot of challenges, and ultimately being resourceful and finding solutions and being creative, thinking outside the box, and ultimately, finding your own true identity. I think is so powerful, especially as Indigenous peoples. There came a point in time. I played my full 5 years of volleyball, and it was my vehicle to success, and it took me as far as it could. And it came a point in time where it couldn't go any more further. And it just kind of, I had to learn how to transition that chapter and learn from that experience, but take it along with me, but kind of let that go now and then take my experience with me into other places, other chapters of my life. So, man, the game of sports taught me leadership, strong leadership skills. And again, not only know how to lead myself, but lead the team I'm around. And, it's very relatable in business. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sports and business are very hand in hand, man. Like, very team orientated.
Mhm.
Um, and very team orientated, especially in like, also like I see the same thing within governance of chief and councils or hereditary leadership, just that team orientation or that dynamic of working together. And, you know, I think that's so important, that learning from sports taught me so much about life, about discipline, about commitment, about sacrifice. And, it was very relatable to life. So that's
I
kind of,
I find that too, because I feel like I relate everything to boxing.
hmm
I'm like, oh, this is just like boxing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like everything, like from like facing fears to battling ego to like being humiliated to like having a relationship with failure to, you know, even like when it comes to like sparring, like someone will go get beat up in sparring and they're fine, they have fun. But as soon as you have to step in a ring with a crowd around you,
Yeah,
nobody wants to do that and get beat up in front of, it's just like,
yeah, that's
it's just interesting how much it relates to real life, you know?
absolutely.
And that's the same with probably all
Oh,
sports, you
absolutely, it
know.
is very relatable to
One
sports.
thing for you, like when you talk about uh communicating with yourself and like building that relationship,
Yeah.
do you like journal or meditate, or because I find that the hardest. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what to journal about. I don't know how to meditate. I don't know. Even like sitting by myself, sometimes I'm like, this is boring,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So what
I
do you do to for that?
I mean, like, I met with some people that taught me, I guess, meditation, and they put me through this experience that, I guess was an experience that I needed because I never really knew how to meditate. But anyways, it was, I guess, what they explained to me is that it's just like being purely still, clearing your mind, and just allowing you to be present and learning, literally being so present that like your awareness gets heightened and your senses become heightened, and you know what I mean. I think that uh that's they were just such amazing people that they were high level kind of, they were into kind of microdosing,
Mm,
and you know what I mean. I met them in Vancouver, and they were kind of adopted me as family. And when they met me, it was kind of, they were just like, "Oh man, it was so meant to be to meet you." And they opened their doors to the house to me, and yeah, I just got to know each other, and they just shared a lot with me, and I shared a lot of things with them as well. And they just shared, like, again, just relatable to meditation, and they talked to me about microdosing and how that was like a next level, you know, experience. You know what I mean? So that's like, they're experts in that field. And they just shared a lot about me, just opened me up kind of to a wider, broader perspective because, again, I don't know everything. And
right.
when you meet interesting people, I
Yeah.
feel like, they broaden our perspectives of life and
Hmm.
worldview. And
I feel like everybody's good at something.
right,
You know, like everybody's figured out something
right.
about life. You know, so it's just like even if you can take one thing.
Right. And to journaling and that kind of stuff, I find that, you know what I mean. It's not necessarily like, you know what I mean. When you say journaling, I think there's kind of a stereotype to, like, just girls chilling on the sunset, just
Right.
beach, just kind of just journaling, whatnot, like that. I don't think necessarily like it's specifically just that. I think journaling could be, one of my mentors said, go buy a book that's $30 in one of the bookstores. And he said, get a nice one, get a valuable one. And he said, why? He said, because carry that book around with you everywhere you go throughout the day. And he said, first of all, write your ten things you get to do for the day. And then write down some affirmations and
Mm,
basically say these affirmations and kind of build that morning routine. And once you take control of your day doesn't take control of you anymore.
right.
And I find when you take control of your day early in the morning, it kind of sets the tone, sets the pace for the rest of the day. And ultimately, I'm really passionate about personal development.
Yeah.
Personal development kind of, I learned the indigenous kind of medicine wheel, the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual concepts of holistic well-being. And, it was very relatable to also, I guess, the personal development in the non-indigenous kind of sector of what they talk about is just mental wellness and emotional wellness, physical wellness, not necessarily more so spiritual wellness, but as indigenous peoples, I find we're spiritual beings living a human experience, not human beings living a spiritual experience.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
so I find that indigenous peoples, we have that spiritual concept to us. Um, and again, it's just kind of finding not necessarily balance, but how do we integrate, even just in our morning routine, the spiritual concept could just be a morning prayer or just kind of smudging and giving thanks and gratitude.
Mm,
And I think that, with a journal, it's our own valuable kind of journal book. And what one of the mentors of mine said is that he said, throughout the day, anything you hear, see, or sense that's more valuable than $30, you put it in your book. Anybody you meet, any kind of quote you think that's more valuable than $30, you put it inside your book.
mm,
And he said, you'll keep your book and you fill it up. And he said, you stack your books up. And you said you'll get to keep these books and you'll be able to pass them down to your children. And they'll get to see your experience, they'll get to read some of your chapters of your growth, some of the things you were going through that day. You get to set the date. And he said it becomes very interesting of like, you get a whole collection of books that are valuable of more than $30. You have a whole book that's more valuable. Everything you write in there is more valuable than $30. So it becomes a book of value and it's your book. And, I think that's helps me to like not necessarily journal, but I see something that's of value and I hear something of value. I hear a quote. I listen to videos, audiobooks. I listen to um, motivational speeches,
Yeah.
and like just listen to business sectors. I learned just always learning, and I just literally just open my book and I just write down all this valuable stuff, and it's just like, man, this is all gold, and like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's cool to hear like I feel like you've been around a lot of cool people. Like you've had some really positive influence,
yeah,
from like coaches and then and all these people that you're learning from.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So is that what you take into those workshops you do?
Yeah,
Kind
so
of.
I guess one of the things, yeah, definitely, I learned everything from all my mentors. And I was back in the day, I was never see myself to be as any leader or any kind of just, independent person. Like I just, was basically a follower growing up.
Mm.
And, I didn't like being a follower and I just didn't like just not being somebody that I was in control of. And one of the things that I like about myself is that I like about being in control and understanding being in control of my own life. And I find that once you take power of your own life and you're in control of your own life, you're in power now of designing a life, and you're able to design your life when you're in control of your life. And, so I found that, there's certain ways of how to understand how to communicate with ourselves and how to communicate with, you know, just how to be better, how to be a better person. And I think that, it teaches us so many lessons because we'll never know it all, but there's always something to learn. There's always something to explore. There's always something to, you know, look next to. And I find that, when we're not growing, we're just not living. And it just helps me, pursue my passion of like fulfilling my blueprint of the reason why I'm born. I feel like, all of us have a gift. All of us have a reason why we're born. Man, the odds of like being born are like 1 in 400 like trillion.
Mm.
Like the odds are crazy. And it's such like a gift. And I had to like the reason why I say it's because I used to think so negatively before. I used to just kind of not really see the value in life. I never used to see, how valuable time is. I never used to see how valuable, you are as independents, as individuals, as people, how to love ourselves, take care of ourselves, value ourselves, invest in ourselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, economically, financially, all those good things. And it's such like a cool thing that once you understand the power of control and being in control, and it's a game changer, bro. Like I just like I say this because I'm still learning it. I don't
Yeah.
not an expert at it. I'm learning from those that have already mastered this, and I think that it just takes practice. Honestly, it just takes practice. Just like as sports, as athletes, we're never the best at the top. I mean, we're never the best at first, but like towards the end, we become like really great throughout practice. We become dialed. Become like what I mean. So again, um, never was the really greatest communicator. Never really
Yeah.
was the greatest speaker. But here I am. You know, speaking and
Speaking
being a
and leading,
communicator,
yeah.
and like it's something that I'm learning that it's a gift of mine. And you know what I mean, like it's really it's really difficult to really accept a gift that you were never really good at.
Mm.
And how do you accept something that you were never good at, that's an actual gift that you have and that you're born with? And people, are so awesome, so kind when they say certain things, man. And I appreciate all the feedback, all the positive feedback, even any feedback. But honestly, I just kind of, always don't think that I know it all, but I'm always just, I guess, just being passionate and just, I guess, intention means a lot. And I think, when you do things with good intentions, it feels good.
Mhm.
And I think that that's one of the things I try my best to do, is to continue doing things with good intentions and moving forward in a good way, and finding, the work that I do, I feel like I have to find what I'm good at. And one of the things that, I was struggling with is that I felt like the economic marketplace didn't have a job for me. And it was challenging because I was an athlete for a
Right.
number of years. And, you know, going to school was just a student athlete. You get your monthly student pay, and go to school. And then, anyways, it was kind of just, and then after I was done school, you know what I mean? I went into kind of uh, leadership. And after I went to leadership, I was, in leadership for 4 years. So I was the youngest elected leader of my nation. And it wasn't even my choice to run for leadership. I literally just moved back home from 6 years of post secondary education, finished my student athlete career, played one season of Canada's one volleyball, first professional volleyball league. And that was again another experience that, like, I'm so grateful for. I got drafted, made a squad, played a game, got player of the game.
Mm.
One of my friends, or I'm sure you know him, many of us know him, Joel, ended up winning the championship. And it was such an amazing experience, man. I'm so happy, proud of him, because he was, I'm pretty sure at one point in time he wasn't even interested in going, but I was like, bro, let's just go. Like,
Mhm.
let's just go, man. And then we're just like, really? It's like, yeah, man, I'm picking you up. And we ended up going all the way to Calgary, and man, we lit it up. Both of us got drafted, and played there. And I just didn't, at one point in time, I just didn't think like volleyball was it anymore. I just kind of, again, took me as far as I could. And I went back home, and I talked to my mentor, and he wanted to nominate me for leadership. And I told him, I said, I don't have any political background. I said, I have pretty much next to nothing in business background. I said, pretty much the only thing I have is strong leadership skills. He's like, perfect. You'll be a good voice for the community. I was like, all right, well, I'll only accept your nomination under one condition, that you mentor me throughout my full term. He said, top, all right, well. So, I was mentored by my mentor to how to operate in leadership. And I gave him feedback after meetings, and he would just listen. He would, and I just felt that it was just a way for me, that I knew that what I was doing was right. And I had the direction of an elder throughout my full term, guiding me, mentoring me.
You were on council?
Yes.
Dang. How old were you?
I was uh I was 27 campaigning for 1 month, and then I got elected when I was 28.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was, again, something that I didn't expect or didn't
Right.
really intend to do. My mentor made that recommendation and nominated me, and had the support of the community.
Yeah.
And man, I was the youngest elected leader, and I was such grateful for that opportunity, that it taught me so much. Like, I felt like I was in school again, in Indigenous and Western leadership,
Mm.
uh, politics, and business. Like, I felt like there's a trilogy game that's at stake here. Like, I feel like leadership, governance, and business. They're all intertwined, kind of like how sweetgrass is braided. It's all kind of one game, and you got to learn how to position yourself. It's almost a chess game. It's not even checkers. It's not even one move. It's a chess game. It's it's how you move the big players in the game. And again, I don't know everything, but again, through my observations, being around the tables, being, behind closed doors, it was an amazing experience to experience. I got to speak from my heart. I got to you know live live the absolute dream that any young leader could, wish for. And it was such a great experience to surround myself with great leaders as well, with hereditary leaders, elected leaders. um the opportunities that came my way were just like once in a lifetime experiences, I believe. um And again, it taught me so much. And I felt like I was so appreciated to be there, and it was such like an honor to be there. And
Mhm.
I guess it was just because I believe I guess so young, and
Yeah.
there's
So,
other
I
young
mean,
leaders as well that are out there. But again, it was my experience being young.
did you feel like you had that kind of like those feelings of like I shouldn't be here, or
Uh
because like I guess that would be tough.
yeah, yeah,
Or did anybody else tell you shouldn't be there?
yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you battle with that? Like
Uh
you're trying to lead, you're trying to learn, you're trying to do the best you can,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you're probably battling in your own head as well as battling these other
Yeah, yeah.
voices as
I
well.
guess it's kind of like I the same thing I can relate to sports is that there's hecklers that are at games. There's
Right.
hecklers that are at the ring. There's hecklers that are at the
Yes,
volleyball
yes, yes.
courts, and there's people that used to do certain things towards me and holler certain things, and sometimes make racial slurs, I guess, towards me. And I had to learn how to zone that out and kind of just like you know hear them, acknowledge them, but at the same time, 90% of life is what happens to us, but I guess the 10% is how we react to it. And I guess I know
Right.
it's the backwards. Either way, it's I guess primarily life happens to us, and I guess what the big difference is, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to it. And one of the things I learned through sports is just kind of just zone them out. And I guess in leadership, you know what I mean. It's important to hear everybody out, but also I guess some people are just, you can't stop liars from being liars. You can't stop hecklers from being hecklers. You can't stop angry people from being angry people. Like it's just that's why the creator made them that way. You know what I
Right.
mean? So again, it's just learning how to communicate, learning to just allow people to hear them out. Again, politics is a different game.
Mm-hmm, hmm.
It's something else that like I'm aware that how the game is played. And I see it as games, my man. There's winning and losing. I find that there's success and failure in the game of politics. And politics is kind of like, I find, is very like a Western kind of, you know, game that was put on Indigenous peoples. And I feel like us Indigenous peoples never really had politics before. Politics isn't really a terminology of our people. And I find that us Indigenous peoples, we had Indigenous traditional governance, not politics. We had governance, traditional governance, hereditary leadership governance. That's what we had. Territorial governance, traditional, Indigenous, hereditary, community centered governance. Um, and from my understanding through my research is that in like, I think it was 1871 that they put on the Indian Act. And that was kind of the same time that they were doing, you know, 1871 Treaty 1 signings, so I felt like they were doing Treaty 1 and the Indian Act at the same time. And, Treaty number 2 was 1992 or 1992, 1972. And again, continued on Treaty 6, 1876. Um, and again, I just found like they had this very strategic kind of program, and I found that, being in leadership, there's, since traveling around from East Coast to West Coast, that there still exists traditional hereditary leadership and governance. It still exists. And the Mohawks, they have that strong traditional governance structure there, hereditary governance. Out in BC, strong hereditary traditional governance. And I mean strong, my man.
Mm-hmm.
Like recognized, well known, respected hereditary leaders, born into leaders. And you know what I mean? And I feel like some of us First Nations, we're so, you know, I guess fixated on this colonial chief and council kind of structure. And I feel like it was put on us, and like we just, we've been kind of adapted to this tradition, this modernized political governance structure, and it was all structured this way, though, my man. And you look at some of the history, I guess, that that I was shared with. There's a story that talks about how it was a 20-year at least plan that it took to send out some settlers to come learn traditional ways and practices and bring them back. And they kind of came up with a plan. It was a master action plan, and they kind of studied the people, and they found ways. And again, one of the solutions, one of the major things, after a lot of them said certain things, spoke about certain things, um, one of them, the last one, spoke up about how important it is to separate the child from the parents and the grandparents, and that's where they'll get the most success. And that's where they created I guess, residential schools,
Right.
and that's where they separated the child from the parents, and that's where they got the most success. But you know what, brother man, we're still here. We're still resilient.
Hmm.
We're still practicing our culture. We're still celebrating our indigenous identity, and our languages are coming back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of resilience that comes along with where we are today and like where we're going down the future. You look at our young youth now today, they're so passionate about culture. They're so passionate about their indigenous identity, so passionate about tradition,
Hmm.
singing, dancing. And like, that's something that's I'm so grateful for. And I see that, and it's a rising culture that's on the uprise.
So when it comes to uh, singing
Yeah,
and
yeah.
drumming, so how long have you been doing that?
Man, we've been singing and drumming since 2004 at least, kind of
Dang.
in the power circle.
Right on.
So like,
Yeah, and what inspired you to just start jump into that?
yeah, I guess we kind of had an interest in singing uh, ground dance at first, and uh, our drum group, is, for those of you that don't know, is Young Thunder. We've kind of us a bunch of brothers of ours that
Mhm.
kind of got together, and a couple of our cousins from Thunderchild, and oh, we love singing. We love, I guess, the fact that there was some pretty good love round dance songs out there. That were just some bangers, and yeah, and then we kind of got an opportunity to go to like a gathering, a youth gathering, and they were asking us to sing a flag song and victory song and an honor song, and we only knew like a couple love banger songs, and we didn't even know these protocol songs. We're just so young, so starting out. We just
Yeah.
literally just got a gig, and all of a sudden, one of our singing mentors, Mark Okitchitao, shout out my man, and he said, "Boys, what's you guys' drum name?" We're like, "A drum name? Like, I don't know, boys. What's their drum name?" He's like, boys looking at each other. I don't know, boys. We didn't figure that out. We didn't know you have to have a name to sign up. And then he's like, all right, boys, like, where are you guys from? And he's like, we're like Thunderchild. And he's like, okay, Thunderchild. He's like, well, Young Thunder boy suck. He said, you guys are all young and you guys are from Thunderchild, Young Thunder. I'm like, all right, sure. Sign us up. And then he taught us quickly the flag song and the victory song, the honor song, and I guess ever since that time, that moment, my man, we had this passion for singing powwow because we've seen round dance singing, the double beat, um, and we kind of got an exposure to singing powwow. And I guess none of our parents grew up singing powwow. We just had this passion to sing powwow. We just had this
Mm.
urge to sing powwow, this curiosity to learn. And when we got our drums, we actually got drums because we used to bring out pots and pans back in the day, um, just to like make a sound. And then we ended up getting some drums, and my one of my uncles, he's makes drum maker, and he invited us to his house, and he explained to us that he just, before he gives us these drums, there's protocols or responsibilities that come along with taking care of these drums. They're actually living mushrooms, like Mystic Weskis, living a living being. And he was explaining to us, the story of the drum and how to take care of it and what to do and the roles and responsibilities that come along with having a drum and being a singer and learning the songs and the commitment and the time, the sacrifice. Uh, Man, singers, it's a whole nether world, my man. It's a people live and breathe drumming and singing, my man.
Hmm.
They live in the powwow world. They live in the round dance world. They live in the ceremonial world, and it's a big responsibility, and it's sometimes people just think we used to think that it was just we're just grabbing singing love ground dance songs back in the days, just making bangers and but we learned so much more that there's such a more of a responsibility that comes with being a singer and having the responsibility of taking care of the drum. And
Right.
man, honestly, the drum literally takes you anywhere and everywhere. And I say this because it has, and it does to all singers, and the opportunities that come to be able to sing in certain places. And it's again, it's a protocol of us Indigenous peoples, to have the drum to sing these songs, and it's such a gift as well to be able to be gifted a voice from the from
Yeah.
the from the singing spirit. I think it's such a gift, my man, and I really believe that all singers really appreciate that gift as well because it does even support families and it supports culture, it supports a way of life, that's for sure.
Have you been on the powwow circuit pretty much every year since?
Growing up, I was living and breathing the power, man. Traveling, putting every dollar into every gas tank, into
Mm.
any last McDonald meal or whatever
Yeah.
we could to ball on a budget. Yeah, so we started like young, like just power trailing, like hardcore every week, every weekday, every back to back weekends. Like literally, we were blown away because sometimes we would hit like literally like 28 powers, 34 powers
Yeah.
back to back to back. And we just, sometimes our voices would just be tapped out, maxed out. And yeah, we just have to take breaks here and there and whatnot. But man, it's such a fun experience, man, like growing up in POWs and
Hmm.
singing. What a way of life, man. Like what a cool experience to see our youth and families and people like just so happy doing what they love to do and singing and dancing and it's just like it just lifts spirits, man. Like it's literally such a ceremony that's like a celebration and all in one and yeah, man, it's again, I haven't literally lived the power life too often. I just kind of been, I went hardcore into the power life, and then I went hardcore into volleyball and
Right.
sports and education, and then I went hardcore into leadership, where I had
Hmm.
to be all in, I had to be completely dialed on every single thing I was doing, and had to be the best at myself, version of myself, in everything I was doing. So, man, I feel like, you know, there came a point in time too when I was done leadership. I kind of went through this experience of like, what do I want to do now? And again, I felt like the economic marketplace didn't really have anything specific for me. And I felt like, how, certain businesses and jobs kind of like have job descriptions. Man, I just felt like I couldn't really fit any of these descriptions, man. Like I just felt like, yeah, I could do those, but it just wouldn't make me happy. It wouldn't make me fulfilled. I
Right.
wouldn't,
Right. Right.
yes, I'd make a lot of money, but it's just not what I want to do. I just like, what do I want to do then? And it's like, well, obviously it's not in the marketplace. So you got to create it, Sav.
Mm.
And, I found that, that's a part of like, that was part of my journey is I had to learn how to create what I do today. And to be a skills development specialist of 7 First Nations and over 100 companies and a podcast host of
Mm.
IndigiConnect podcast. Shout out to IndigiConnect podcast. Yeah, yeah. But it's such an honor to do what I do now and to help businesses grow and to
Mm.
one of the workshops I do is personal and professional development, and I work with business executives, board of directors, managers, staff, employees, and we go through a workshop that's a personal professional development workshop, and we go through little exercises, go through basically sharing some topics of discussion, and we create our own roadmap to our own personal and professional development lifestyle. And we treat, I guess we try to find ways to integrate our goals and values into, I guess, what we do for passion. Because
Mm.
honestly, man, that's what I've learned. And
Yeah, yeah,
what I learned from this experience is that I wanted to create something that helped me get the results that I wanted. So I want to help others get results that I got as well, because it is possible to align your
right.
passion, personal passions and values into your professional passions and values. It's possible. And I know you're doing the same thing
Mhm.
as well, because you're
Yeah,
doing a lot of great things, my man. And you know what I mean? You know exactly what I'm talking about. And, I wanted to provide a workshop, for these First Nations businesses and companies and staff and employees, um, the opportunity to walk them through a short workshop that aligns their personal and professional goals
mhm.
and values and beliefs. So they can create and design their life that they want. And, I think that's such a gift for me to to be able to do that kind of work. And the results that we did a pilot project, and we had a basically 100% success rate. And I'm doing a final critique to the steering committee. So pretty much the board of directors, the chiefs, leaders of companies I work for, and we're going to almost patent it and create like a bigger scale of the work that I do. And they want to add little adjustments here and there if need be. But you know, it's so cool to be able to be supported,
Right.
and to be able to be appreciated for the work that I do and the time that I put into the work that I do. And honestly, man, I don't even see what I do as work, my man. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I really, really don't. And I just like, I see this as like, man, if I didn't create this, would have never happen. And I had to learn that like what I'm doing right now is it's all the beginning. It's the start of what I've created. And like where I go from here is the next steps of starting what I created. I turned nothing into something, and I needed to
Mhm.
do that because the economic marketplace, even if it was an indigenous job at a big company, national companies, you know, it just wasn't it, my man. I would have never been happy. I would have never been fulfilled. And now I have time. I have time to work and go travel. And I also have time to be with family and friends and
Mhm.
do cool things like this.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's really cool to be able to find what your gift is and to live, I guess, with a purpose and passion, aligning your personal professional goals. It's something that I'm just kind of learning how to do and learned how to do, and I'm doing it. And it was something that I think that's important to share as well.
Mm. I I think like when you have purpose, you know, the things you're doing day to day just become a lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's less of a job, it's less of work, and it just is what you do. You know, because you're living through your purpose, you're living through your values. It's just like being a parent.
Right.
It's not like I think being a parent, I'm going to work every day,
Yeah,
even though it's not easy.
yeah,
Even though
absolutely.
there's things you learn every day, there's mistakes you make, there's a parent isn't a job, it's a
Right.
lifestyle. And
Absolutely.
that's how I feel with boxing, with coaching, with running a business, with going out to communities and running programs. So I 100% understand exactly what you're, because I never feel like I'm waking up and going to work.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like I'm
absolutely.
waking up and just living my life,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like on my own terms.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's where purpose changes things. You know, I feel like when you go out and do those workshops,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, what's like something? Is there something you've noticed that like people are struggling with the most? Like
Depends.
why they're getting stuck or why they can't find purpose?
It depends what workshop, I guess.
Mm.
Are we talking to you about the cultural workshop, or are we talking about the personal professional development workshop?
The personal professional development one.
Yeah, I think that, I find that, I guess they're, everybody's very unique. Everyone's very different, has their own story. And I find that, again, what I referred to you, earlier on, is that I think that what we realize throughout the workshop is that the power of the communication between yourself, understanding that's the greatest power that we have in this lifetime, is that conversation you have in your head with yourself. And I find that, within the personal professional development workshop, you know what I mean? I feel like when we have limitations in our personal lives, we have limitations in our professional lives, and it affects both.
Mm.
And once we understand to, I guess, to persevere from these limitations, and in our personal lives, I feel like it'll elevate us in our professional lives. And this is something that I learned within, like, even the non-indigenous world. They talk about personal development at professional development workshops. um, they talk about the importance of personal development, learning how to, as personals, we're the owners of the direction, choice makers, decision makers of the company. If we don't grow, our companies are not growing. So I find that sometimes we just get caught up in just status quo in our businesses and just kind of just going
Mm.
along. And I find that if we're not challenging ourselves, like what we should be learning within our personal lives, if we're not challenging ourselves to physically go for these runs and push harder and grow in different areas, push the weights and grow in different body, mindset in all aspects. And I find that we were not going to do that in our professional lives. So learning that if we do that in our personal lives, we're able to exercise those same practices within our professional lives and push the limits and grow our business and scale and expand and get the results we want as business owners and personal professional business people. And so that's kind of like, well, I see that one of the most important things within that workshop is that they're understanding that they now are in control within that. I think it's just like understanding different perspectives and then hearing somebody say it, because we think a lot of things, and we become doubtful within ourselves, and we don't have confirmation at certain places. But when we hear somebody say it that we trust and we believe and that we feel that they're sincere, I think that that's, adds confirmation. Or it's like we see a sincere post on social media that's relatable to what we're talking about. I feel like we share that information because we feel like it was sincere. So, I find that um, the biggest takeaway is understanding how powerful that consciousness is within ourselves. And um, I think that's what we really are, is our consciousness. And I think that's what's really attached to our spirit when it comes to spiritual terms through my research and relating, or if it's not it, it's very closely related, I think, anyways.
I know for you said you had that switch. You said you used to be quite negative in your
Yes.
mind, and now you've been able to switch that.
Yes.
Was there like a moment that you know that you switched it, or that you knew that you needed to switch it?
Uh,
Like, how did you recognize that?
there
Because
was
that
multiple switches.
okay,
There's multiple switches. I don't think there was one switch that kind of switched it all. I felt like there's multiple switches within different chapters of my experiences. And I felt like there's different chapters that we experience and there's different switches that we got it, because you can't switch them all at once, I feel like. You're only allowed to switch the ones
right, right.
you're in the chapter of. And I feel like, you know, there's multiple times where there's multiple switches that I still got to switch off, and I got to find that, switch on and switch off. And I find that, when I first happened, I wasn't around the people I wanted to be around. I wasn't successful. I didn't have the results I wanted. So I have to flip the switch off and turn the switch on taking a step back and surrounding myself with just myself and just learning how to be alone, learning how to just be isolated, independent, learning how to think just being alone. And then that was kind of like just learning how to get to know myself. I felt like learning how
Mhm.
to love myself, learning how to communicate with myself, because it was just me. just me now. And it's like, all right, just you now. And it's just like learning how to communicate with herself. And I found that through this communication, there was this little cool version of me that was kind of like a cool, silly, funny, hype kind of character within myself. And I liked that. I liked that version. And I was just like, oh, this guy's pretty cool to hang around with. And you know, I kind of got to build a relationship, a stronger relationship with more of that positive side of me than there's this negative side that I was really close to before. And he kind of had control of, my thoughts, my
Mm.
feelings, emotions, my actions. It was very negative. And I had this like kind of just being around the wrong people and they say who you surround yourself with is who you'll become eventually. And I just felt like a lot of some of the people we experience in our lives, yeah, you know, we some of us grow and some of us kind of just stay, and some of us just grow and some of us get a good job, and so there's different growth periods, and I feel like um, and I felt like at one point in time I wasn't around some people that didn't want to grow, and I had to learn how to be okay with being alone and knowing that I want to grow and I got to do this because I want to do this. I want to grow and I want to push myself. I want to step outside my comfort zone. I want to push the limits to see what's possible, what's capable, and not knowing how to do it. I was a walk-on tryout at Lakeland College, and it was shout out to Lakeland College, wrestlers, baby. But they were the ones that opened the door for me, and I didn't get no scholarships to any college, university after high school, and you know, when I was in college, my man, I had to turn another switch on because I was still just a kid from the res, my man. And I
Yeah.
was playing in college, and, college gets pretty wild sometimes. It's an amazing experience. College is a cool experience. So go to school, kids. It's jokes. But, man, college was awesome, but I had to learn how to, my coach, I was, I had to learn how to be a stronger leader because I wasn't a leader before. And I had to learn how to be a leader. And I never really believed in myself, my man. There was a point in time where I never believed myself. Why would I believe in myself when I'm so negative? Why would I believe myself when
Mhm.
this guy talks so negative to me all the time and brings me down? And this relationship is stronger than this positive guy, this cool guy over here. And, so I was never a leader before. I was never put in a leadership position before. And I didn't know how to lead before. I didn't even know what a leader does before or what a leader is, and could care less what a leader was. I just didn't know, didn't have it. And I had to learn in the game of volleyball that I was athletically gifted and talented at volleyball because I worked hard at training and working out, and I got the results that I wanted. And a lot of people looked up to me. A lot of people were inspired by me. A lot of people were excited for my progress, my success, and seeing me grow and being put into the spotlight. Um, I felt like, why do so many people believe in me? Why do like do I even believe in myself? Like,
Mhm.
and there came a point in time where we're in a timeout in volleyball, and it was like 23-24 set point for the other team, and we're playing like one of the best teams in the league, and we're almost gonna beat them, and the coach and everyone's like, all right, once we get the ball, we're gonna set Sav, give Sav the ball. Sav's gonna put the ball away. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh shit. I so I was just kind of just, put in the position that a lot of people believed in me and believed that I was capable of doing it. And I had to learn how to believe in myself because at one point in time, I felt like if I didn't believe in myself, then others were going to not believe in me anymore and I would fail. And the power of belief and visualizing. And I started to learn that a lot of people believed in me and I knew I was capable, and it helped me to see that I had to learn how to believe in myself and to communicate with myself different, that I am a leader, that people do look up to me, that I have to carry myself in a better way, that I have to be a better version. Um, and just to, I guess, level up in all aspects. I was never a leader, and to be leveling up in all aspects, it was a pure learning experience. And I learned so much through sports. Through I led my team in kills all 5 years of college, and I played 3 years at Lakeland and 2 years at Camosun. At Camosun, we were the my fourth year ranked number one in the country, and we were like 24-0 our season. And even throughout that season, I was still the team leader in kills. And like honestly, my man, I was just such an animal. I was just so dialed. Like I was looking back on some of those videos, some of those photos, man, just busting out that double fist pump, man. I just couldn't not believe how passionate I was before, man. Like to play that
Yeah.
game with that much passion. Oh my goodness. I wouldn't even want to play myself, man. Like yeah, it was wild. It was a wild experience looking back on it. And I'm so grateful for that experience, man. I dedicated my life to that experience. I sacrificed a lot of my life, a lot of my time. And I'm so grateful for the results that it gave me. And throughout that experience, I can say that it wasn't about any of the outcome of that experience. It was the experience that it taught me to be who I am today. That's what that whole thing gave me. It's not even about the awards, recognition, all Canadian, Island MVP, national tournament all star. It's not about that. It's not even about winning a national title. It was about the experience that it taught me how to be a better person. And I take that away with me now. And I do have all my awards and stuff like that, but they're just there. They don't really mean much. And it's not even about them anymore. It's about that experience that it created me to be. It created me
Mm.
to be a better person on the court and off the court. So, I'm just so thankful for volleyball. So thankful for it. My coaches, my teammates. Could have never done all that stuff without my teammates, man. So, shout out to all my players out there, all my coaches, staff, training. Much love, fam.
And I honestly, like it, it really shows, man, like your growth and who you are. Because even honestly, in the short time I've known you,
Yeah, yeah,
like I've seen you do things and grow. Even with your social media. I remember one post you made. You were talking, and you just said, "I'm gonna start talking more because I need to learn how to speak better."
yeah,
And you just used it as a tool to like get good at speaking.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Speak to the camera. What and I just think all these things you've been through, all these things you've gone through, and even being nominated, for your community. Like obviously somebody saw something in you,
Right,
and then you got voted in. So that means a handful of people saw something in you
right.
that you may not have seen yourself,
Yeah,
or you
yeah,
had to grow into, or maybe you weren't that person even yet, but you had to become that person.
yeah,
And
yeah,
all these different things, volleyball, sports, has
yeah,
like
yeah.
made you become this person you are right now. And I
Mhm.
can tell by what you're doing, by how you speak, that you're passionate, that you're a good person, that you're doing good things and you want to do good work, whether it's internal or external,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
just want to do good things. You're a
Appreciate that,
yeah,
brother,
man,
man.
100%. I can tell that in you when I talk to you, when I see you talk about the things you're doing.
Mhm.
I can see it in your eyes that it excites you, that you're passionate, man. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love watching what you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Appreciate that, brother, man. And it honestly is a gift, and I just want to share with some people some of the cool things that are possible, my man. And I really believe that I'm not so much like I don't want to really lean into the whole motivational kind of like league and that kind of like that field. I feel like I'm too busy with business. I'm too busy with my workshops, presentations. I feel like there's a lot of good people already doing that kind of motivational stuff though. And I'm so happy, so proud. And I look up to people doing those motivational stuff, my man. But I feel like there's a good number of motivational people out there and I look up to them too. But I feel like, that's not really what I want to do. I think that, I'm just really dialed in and my personal life and my professional life and I really love business. I love business just as much as I love sports. And I was gifted an opportunity to be a skills development specialist for 7 First Nations, over 100 companies, and you know to bring my passion, skills, and abilities to business and the work that I do, man. It's such an honor, and I'm so grateful, and I love what I do, and I sacrifice a lot to be here to learn, uh, and to do what I love to do. And I really want to just share, like, it is possible literally to do what you love to do, and you'll never work another day in your life. And like, I'm going to continue working hard at that. It's just the beginning. On my climb back up, just to, be on top of the food chain of what you love to do. I feel like, I did my best in the singing world, the power world, sang and won some championships. I felt like I've did my best in volleyball world, played some games, won some championships. Felt like I done my best in leadership world. You know, Played some games, won some championships. Yeah. So now I'm doing my work as independent consultant. Playing some games and winning some championships, baby.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Well, I think we'll call that. We're just over an hour here, but it was awesome to have you here and just pick your brain, man, and dive in
Yeah,
to
yeah,
everything you've been up to. And anytime you're in town, we can do this again and do this again, man. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, thanks for coming out.
Appreciate it, brother, man.
Yes, sir.